realized to be free in this life,
Don't you ever
breaking the rules meant nothing. You had to be strong enough to make your own.
One thing I really liked about Joe, and maybe Dion thinks about himself this way as well, is that he looks at himself as an outlaw, not a gangster. And there is a difference there. I was wondering if you could elaborate.
I think as an outlaw, it means he's making his own rules for himself and that he's defining his own life in the world, but he's not adhering to gang mentality and forcing gangsterism, which is he views as more morally suspect.
I mean, does Dion kind of view himself as an outlaw too, or is he just I just want to steal?
I think he wants to be a gangster. It's like that line in the opening line in Goodfellas, my whole life, all I want to be a gangster. Yeah, I think that's the essence to Dion right there.
One of the things I liked about this movie was that it goes beyond just like the standard crime drama elements, and I think part of the reason is that it's not set in the usual place that we see these things. Was the fact that we did get to see other cultures, other parts of life at that time in America, was that a big draw for you to want to do this?
Yes, it gives you an idea of what America was really like in its entirety, and not just a romanticized version of violence. The one thing about gangster movies that I never understood is how seductive they can be for the ill of heart. You know what I mean? You find it so appealing, so sensual, so amazing. I want to be like that, and you kind of go, what? Like, this man was shooting out people left and right. Joe Coughlin, I feel that was a very unconventional kind of gangster. He was empathetic, he was not cruel, he would have had a different life had he been given the opportunity. And Ben allowed Joe to be human.
Now, can you talk a little bit about how maybe the war, World War I, shaped your character?
Well, it definitely disillusioned my character. He went off a police captain's son to do his duty, and he saw senseless death, and he couldn't understand why, and he came back very disillusioned and decided that he wasn't going to take orders from anybody anymore.
Particularly when it comes to 20s stuff, I felt like the women of the jazz age were incredibly colorful characters to play, because it was like kind of a threshold of a new kind of era of liberation and stuff. When you were doing research for this, I mean, how fun was it to kind of discover these things about the women of that time, and particularly people kind of tied to organized crime? I mean, they certainly seem like they had, probably a little bit more fun than others.
Yeah, it's the most glamorous era. It's fascinating, as you said, for women who suddenly chopped off their hair and took their corsets off and were doing the Charleston and speakeasy bars. And then you've got Scott and Zelda in Paris and Hemingway, and it was raucous and debauched, and that in itself is just fascinating. The post-war freak out of people, just all that death and the reaction to that, means that it was just alive and people were living by night.
I did like that they brought in something else that was going on in the 20s, the kind of tent revival preachers.
Yes.
Was the fact that there was that kind of additional element, was that a draw for you to want to do this?
Yeah, I mean, this movie, also the 1920s gangster film, that's such a classic kind of cinematic genre, and there's a lot of amazing classic movies that are about that in that time, and so I don't think there has been a movie that's kind of been that big and epic and about that, the Prohibition, in a long time. And so because of that, and the modern twist that kind of is taken on it in a way, showing all the different sides to it. It's not just one point of view. There's so many different characters, and you get to see everybody's opinion on it.